Welcome to the Posscast.
I exist in physical space.
Yes, and we are here in the sewers with a vampiric manta ray. So, this is something new. We are going to read some D&D horror stories. Because we both play D&D. I play D&D. Do you play D&D?
I play D&D and other RPG games.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm currently in a Pathfinder 2e game, and we're working on starting the Lancer game.
Nice. I am in 2 Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. One that I run. It's a homebrew called World Disappear. The other is called Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
It's an obscure module. You probably never heard of it.
Yeah. You're probably more familiar with its older one, Ravenloft.
Yeah. So,
and the sequel, Return to Castle Ravenloft.
Yes. And the sequel, Ravenloft Lives.
I think it was a 2e expansion.
Yeah. I was making a joke about the
I know.
modules. Strahd lives, Strahd dies. So yeah, today we are going to be reading some horror stories about Dungeons and or Dragons.
Other RPG game.
Do you want to start or should I start?
Let's start with you so you can get the classics out the way.
Okay, I'm sure that if anyone here has watched any sort of, RPG horror story reading, you're probably familiar with this one. It's covered by anyone. It's covered by everyone, and god damn it, it's gonna be covered by us as well. This one is called How I Developed a Pathological Fear of Airships.
Yeah.
So, before I start, the way this is gonna be format is, we're gonna read, and at any point, the person who's not reading can interrupt to say their thoughts about what is currently happening.
Oh boy.
Yes.
I get to be opinionated.
Oh, there's a lot of strong opinions about this post. So, my first ever D&D experience was a game set up among friends. It was mostly new players, but it was implied to me that the DM was experienced and knew the setting well. Because I was new, I missed a bunch of immediate red flags. We were playing 3.5 Eberron, which literally every expansion and addition allowed. In fact, the DM was disappointed when his entirely new group of players all chose to play fairly simple archetypes instead of somehow magically knowing how to make exploitative and game-breaking combos by comboing multiple versions together that were clearly not written with compatibility in mind. Nevertheless, we were all excited. I was a changeling sorcerer, posing as an elf, with an existing relationship with another party member, our fighter. We also had a rogue, a bard, and a ranger. The players were all keen and ready. Since it's relevant, both the rogue player and myself are female. Everyone else, including the DM, is male. There was no session 0. The first session was literally to be, we are all meeting up in a tavern to sign up for the same job. No motivation.
The classic start.
Yeah.
The classic start.
Okay, meeting in a tavern is a cliche because it works. It's an easy way to get the players together. Like, I do it. I'm gonna keep doing it because it's...
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying a classic.
That's not one of the things that are... that's not one of the red flags, okay? Meeting in a tavern is good, okay? It works.
No, the red flag is expecting everyone who's a new player to min-max immediately.
Yes, that is very much a red flag.
At what, like level 3 or whatever?
I think they were starting at level 1.
Ah, level 1. the easiest level to min max with. You know, when you have like maybe 2 abilities.
Yeah.
And no ability to fucking the multi-level.
Yeah.
Or
So
multi-class.
yeah. So what was I? No motivations, no real plot hook. But also I had heard a lot of games start like this. So unfortunately, I had to miss this session at the last second thanks to work. And when I asked how it was, I got mixed reports. A fighter friend reported that he'd signed up for the job as agreed, and then said the ranger player had arrived drunk and spent most of the session being incoherent or picking fights. This included an infamous moment where he insisted he could use his swim skill to dance on the floor. I sort of had my hopes up for a grand adventure story, but it seemed like the vibe of this group was going in a sillier direction. No worries, that could still be fun. So, we got to the next session, and some of the problems started to crystallize for me. The party swung by to pick up my character en route to our employer, who had an airship. The airship would become the bane of our entire existence. It was magically enhanced to be impenetrable to basically everything, and filled to the brim with level 20 NPCs of unusual races and classes, all exploiting every weird nuance of 3.5 as much as possible to maximize their power. It was a literal boat full of DNPCs, right down to his favorite self-insert. This wasn't a secret. The DM would gleefully brag about his OP combo class builds and how they were unbeatable. Meanwhile, we were all on level 1. And immediately I'm seeing a problem with this story. Why are we being hired by these gods? I'm not super excited about a game that's basically running errands for people more powerful than us. But hey, the DM insists he has a plan, so maybe this is all a front for something. The rogue player is having her first session too, and both she and my sorceress were skittish about the job, for different reasons. The DM declared that our minds were being read by multiple characters on the ship and refused to let us save against the effects because they were too powerful, lol. I objected to this, pointing out that my character had certain things she would like to keep private, and was basically being told, too bad. I felt like I had the option of being that player who makes things unnecessarily difficult by refusing to buy into the plot, or swallowing my objections and hoping it got better. I chose the latter, which became a bad habit throughout this campaign for me. But DM was young and earnest, and I genuinely was hoping that somehow it would all get better. The session continued, the DNPCs flexing on us aggressively, making everyone in the party sign binding contracts that would basically insta-kill us if we ever tried to leave the airship without permission, or tell anyone about our employment. When the sorcerer objected to this, I was told the fighter had signed on her behalf, and she was already employed, so shut up and stop asking questions. Rogue was similarly reluctant, but the DM basically rushed alongside saying, "You all sign and we just move on."
God.
Yeah, just shitting on player autonomy.
Just, you don't have agency. This is my story.
Yeah. You're all just captives here to watch my super awesome DNPCs. Ugh. We were given an objective to go to a house and pick up something from a person there. They expect some trouble. The guy hasn't checked in recently. Okay, cool. Dungeon. Maybe this will be better. You've probably noticed by now that I'm not filling out any plot elements. That's because there basically were none. The DM actively refused to world build for us. We would ask for descriptions and get maybe 2 words of the area we're in. Every character had one of 2 personalities, apathetic and bored, or sarcastic and mean. I'm not exaggerating with this at all. Whenever we pushed back on how boring the situation was, he would either send us a fanfic about his DMPCs or complain that we didn't read the Eberron guidebook from cover to cover and memorize all the details. And all the while, he claimed to be an amazing storyteller.
Oh god, I forgot this was an Eberron.
Yeah. God, that makes me... So, I love world building. Alright? I love world building. The world that's appear is my baby. I have...
You've handcrafted this world.
Yeah, I'm still handcrafting. Think of it, it's a little bit procedurally generated. I have, like, basic ideas. For the vast... Because it's a big world, I have basic... For most places, I have, like, a general idea of what it will be. But there are specific, like, areas where there will be things. You know, things to do, things to look at, things to investigate, things to find. And I just, like... I'm basically procedurally generating it, but in a way that, how do I best describe this? I am constantly building onto the world. Like,
yeah,
at all points. Where was I? Right. In the dungeon, more problems arose. It immediately became apparent that the dungeon was built like his DMPCs, exploiting a bunch of 3.5 mechanics none of us were even remotely familiar with, and therefore filled with overpowered monsters that could all but one-shot us squishy level 1s. At the last second, one of his ship DMPCs would burst through the roof and slaughter everything in one turn. I was praying at this point that this was all just an introductory session and that we'd face a reasonable challenge next week. Maybe. Surely. Nope. For the next few sessions, the pattern was the same. Throw our party at a challenge that wasn't even remotely scaled to our level, they all but murder us, and then when he realized we were about to TPK, send his level 20s to rescue us. This was incredibly demoralizing and unfun. Myself, rogue player, and bard all started playing our characters as frustrated and digging in our heels on these missions that we were clearly unqualified to go on. Fighter player was a sweetheart and didn't want to cause any waves, so he played his character as more agreeable, if worried about sorcerer's safety. This upset the DM because apparently we were all supposed to be delighted about how cool and brave his NPCs were for saving us all the time.
Alright, okay, I want to say something.
Yeah?
Interject once more.
Yeah?
Okay, so I think that putting your players into an unbeatable situation is fine in context. Specifically, it's like session 0 or 1, and we've just met who's going to be the big bad.
Yes.
And he's like, throws out a wave that's like, fucking knocks everyone out.
Yeah, just to flex.
Yeah, just to show, hey, this guy's big and powerful, and you probably shouldn't fuck with them for a while.
Maybe he captures you in order to fuck with you even more, and the first real session is escaping.
Okay, so my Pathfinder game, session 0, it ended with us walking in on some Yuan-Ti. And,
lovely.
and this Yuan-Ti priest, like, threw out, like, a negative energy wave, and...
Jesus.
Look, I may have rolled like a 25 on my, or a 24 on my fucking, fortitude save. I still went down.
Yeah. Sounds like it, but that's
Shit felt like shit dealt enough damage to us to knock every single person down other than, like, our tank.
I
Who
think
he specifically avoided hitting because there's a little bit of backstory with him.
Yeah, I think that scripted losses are fine if it's to build up the threat of the current arc. Scripted losses are not fine if it is to introduce a badass NPC that steals the spotlight.
Exactly.
Okay. So, we tried explaining multiple times we weren't enjoying and what we weren't enjoying, and it was like talking to a wall. He'd nod, say he got it, and then literally do the same thing again. Then he got dismissive and even a bit shitty that we kept bringing up this not having fun problem. Looking back on it, we should have quit. In fact, the Ranger player did quit, citing work obligations. Smart guy. So, why didn't we? Well, we were all friends outside the game, and we didn't want this bridge to be burned. The DM was young and had some mental health problems, and we were trying to tread carefully around it. And finally, we really, really liked our characters and really, really wanted to love this game. This group was thirsty for a genuine story we could dig our teeth into, and I think we all sort of believed that if we held on long enough, then somehow we would get that. Anyway, eventually...
Okay. I need to interject once more.
Go for it.
Just as a general thing, your mental illnesses do not excuse you to be an asshole.
Exactly. I have ADHD and autism and mild depression.
I've got ADHD and depression. I try my best not to purposefully be an asshole.
Same. I do not force you into unbeatable situations unless it's scripted. Only for.
I mean in general, not just D&D.
Also, yeah, in general. Sorry, I was still thinking in the context of D&D.
Nah, I mean just like in general. It's like, hey, just because you have like autism or whatever doesn't mean you can. Like I know that it makes you bad with social cues, but surely you should be aware of the fact that you're being an asshole.
Yeah, there's a difference between being socially inept and being a malicious asshole.
Alright, back to the story. I'm eating candy corn.
Oh, lucky. I finished the last of my candy corn the other day.
I've still got a big old bag of normal candy corn and the terrible corn.
You don't have the autumn mix anymore? Did you finish that?
No, I gave it to my mom.
Right. Autumn mix is the best. Anywho, back to the story. Alright. Let's see. Smart guy, blah blah blah, breaching word. He had mental problems. We were trying to tread carefully around it. Finally, we really liked our characters. We were thirsty for a genuine story we could dig our teeth into. And I think we all sort of believed that if we just held on long enough, we'd somehow get that. Anyway, eventually the rogue player put her foot down and said she didn't want to play a game where she was a damsel in distress. She really wanted a real adventure that was impossible for us to... She wanted a real adventure that was possible for us to complete. And because he had a very unsubtle crush on her, suddenly he took it very seriously. He had no idea. He'd fix it right away. Sigh. But, okay, maybe we'll finally get something different. The next session started out the same. We were trapped on the airship, surrounded by NPCs that could kill us with a flick of their pinky. I'll keep reading.
I'm being called out of the room. Just keep going.
Okay. That could kill us with a flick of their pinky and treated us all like shit. Then we were being told about some new mission to do, and suddenly we were attacked. Something ultra powerful breached the defenses of the OP ship. We run to see what's attacking, and see a single man basically slaughtering the entire ship. And, okay, we obviously couldn't take that, but it felt more like a video game cutscene than a final boss. It felt more like a video game cutscene with the final boss than an encounter, and I was good with that. The man taunted us and refused to kill us for literally being too weak to be worth his time. Dan took off with a MacGuffin that they'd hidden on the ship, leaving us with the one NPC and the party on the airship, surrounded by corpses. My mind was spinning with possibilities. We are the only ones alive that know about the MacGuffin and its world-ending properties, and that guy has it. We are not powerful enough to stop him now, but maybe if we go on a quest to uncover some sort of weapon to counter him. The Bard is a member of a family that gathers information, so maybe we could start there. It was like we'd finally lost our shackles and was given an actual adventure. And then he describes as the rogue's character abruptly awakening to a special power. He describes her feeling with an overwhelming urge to touch all the NPCs with her glowing hands. And when she doesn't do so fast enough for his liking, he just takes over and narrates her touching all the dead people and them instantly being healed and reviving until the whole ship is suddenly alive again. God damn it. God damn it! So, all the NPCs are alive again, and we have no reason to step up and take responsibility for the situation at all. In fact, it's literally their problem. My sorcerer declares this is way above her pay grade, and she wants out. She demands to be fired. End of session. Before the next session, the DM sent me a whiny message complaining that my character was wanting to quit, was really messing up his plans. I told him quite bluntly that the only thing she had keeping her there was to fight her friend, and the massacre on the entire ship of OP NPCs right in front of her very much overrode that. I had tried to be flexible with this, but the situation was ridiculous, and no reasonable person would stick around after that without an amazing reason. She didn't trust the NPCs to not get her killed, and she didn't trust that they can protect her now. It's on him, as the DM, to create a reason for her to stay. And no, threatening her was not a good reason to stay. Alright, so what you missed was the big bad coming in and killing everyone, but then Deus Ex Machina, they're all alive again.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright. I have finally received a package that my friend had ordered for me to ship to him.
Oh, nice.
It's a bunch of Magic the Gathering Secret Lair stuff.
Oh, nice. I think you might need to get a bit closer to your mic.
Yeah, I'm kind of facing away from it because I'm not really sitting at it right now.
Oh, okay.
I just opened the package to make sure it was actually the cards.
And not a bunch of G.I. Joe cards?
I'm not opening the packages, no. I mean, I'm not opening the card sleeves.
Oh, man.
I do need to message him and let him know that they finally arrived.
Nice. By the way, I love the fucking G.I. Joe cards video. The fact that that was all legit makes it so much better. It wasn't just a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Okay. So, OP was saying that the DM needs to create a good reason to stay, and threatening is not a good reason to stay. Huge dick move on my part. Huge dick move on my part, yes. I didn't really regret it, though. This ended the era of me being soft and gentle to the DM about his flaws. The next session started off with the captain of the ship giving a big speech that the DM assured me would make my character feel better about feeling weak. The speech basically summed up as, we deliberately let him take the MacGuffin and murder us as part of our master plan, and we secretly knew that the rogue had magic revival powers all along, and the big bad wouldn't swat her out of existence because of his arrogance, and now we have the upper hand. So yeah, now the sorcerer thinks they're powerless to stop him, and also complete morons. Luckily she didn't voice this out loud. Anything you mention your character thinking was fair game for the multiple mind readers on the ship to pick up on and yell at you about. This is getting super long, so I'm gonna summarize the next few atrocities. The airship at first seemed like it was going to be a hub world between missions of sorts, and it very quickly became our prison. There were multiple times I can remember when a character in the party would be protesting an NPC or a mission or anything, and the DM would smugly remind them that they were X amount of feet in the air, and if they didn't like it, they could leave. Between this and the insta-kill magic contracts, we were basically forced to do whatever dumb errand the NPCs didn't feel like solving with their infinite powers of the day. Any attempt to make a private space on the ship was futile. Our rooms didn't have locks, and hiding in some dark corner was impossible because of the unresistible mind readers. When the bard tried to use a spell to block his door, the NPC burst through the wall just to make a point. And I wanted a spell that would let the sorcerer make a private pocket dimension. The DM rejected it because pocket dimensions can't tether to relative objects. Okay, except that the airship already had a pocket dimension tethered to it. Jesus Christ. That pisses me off. I'm a huge fan of tethering entrances to pocket dimensions to relative spaces. Alright?
As I'm aware.
Yes. If you had a carpet with a magic circle on it, with a teleportation circle, I would allow that as long as you have a place to lay it flat. Like, this DM pisses me off so much. As a DM.
What if I got a portable hole and put a teleportation circle in the bottom of it?
You would not be able to teleport into it. You would have to leave the thing rolled up. As soon as something tries to teleport into it, it would collapse into a black hole to the astral plane.
Ah, damn.
You know, spatial dimension stuff. It's like putting a bag of holding in a portable hole. Like, as long as nobody teleports to it, it would be fine.
What if I teleport out with it?
That would still same effect.
Ah, shit.
So, basically, any kind of... You also wouldn't be able to put your key in it.
Well, here's the thing. Now I've developed a trap.
Ah, you give the enemies a teleportation circle, set it up in the thing, let them teleport to it. I see.
Exactly.
Yes.
Devious.
Yes. Now you just
Little
need
do they know that they are going to be flung out into the astral plane at 100 miles per hour.
Now you just need Levere to figure all that out. Okay.
I mean, it's for Varen to find out.
You know, that's
She's
fair.
The one who passed it.
I mean, Lorcax, whenever he gets
Lorcax isn't
back,
in the group no more.
he will be once his work schedule allows it. Okay. So, three-quarters of the party members relied on magic in some way, and the ship had anti-magic capabilities built into it. It wasn't uncommon for them to force us in a room, activate the anti-magic so we couldn't use magic to leave, and then yell at us about how disrespectful, lazy, awful, selfish, ungrateful, etc. we are. Finally, we had no say over where the airship was going and why. This point would have mattered more if we could distinguish between any of the locations. Bard player found this the most irksome, since he wanted to check in with his family in a particular sitting, but the DM didn't want him to use any of his information gathering family background to gather information, so we were always conveniently anywhere but there. My character had not revealed she was a changeling, and she was constantly questioning the NPCs and picking holes in their plans. The DM got pissed about this and outed her to the party via his self-insert NPC, also a changeling. So, a very important character detail that I had been waiting to reveal in a cool way instead was taken away from me because he wanted to punish me for not blindly going along with what he wanted. The group managed to salvage some really interesting inter-party conflict out of this mess, but I was pissed. He later insisted that he didn't do it out of pettiness, but his precious and perfect little NPC decided that the sorcerer keeping secrets was hurting the party, and he was doing her a favor by exposing her. From that point on, the sorcerer was openly and unapologetically hostile to that NPC, and he was always shocked that she despised him for outing her. Let's see. He now couldn't deny he wasn't aware of the problems with the overleveled encounters and NPCs, especially as the party was refusing to cooperate in character. This meant that we started playing the justification game. Why is a weak level 2 party being sent on missions that one level 1 NPC could manage within an hour? Well, you see, if the NPCs ever leave the ship, they'd instantly be attacked by horrifying monsters. What about all the other times NPCs clearly left the ship to bail us out? Ignore those. Those don't count. Why is it our problem that they lost the MacGuffin in a storm of terrible planning? Reminder, the plan included all of them dying. Because you should want to save the world. Okay, no, we'd like to leave. Well, if you leave, you'll instantly be murdered by a powerful cult that wants to kill the rogue because of her magic revival powers. So how can we go out?
Wouldn't they just immediately die anyway due to the contracts?
That would be... yeah, that would be... At least that would be a more consistent excuse. But then how can we go out on...
Do you think remove curse would fix the contract?
Depends on how the contract was created. If it was a devil that created the contract, then probably not.
I don't think that they're devils. I think it's just like,
well,
I'm a very powerful wizard.
No.
I made kill paper.
You have to remember, they're very powerful DMPCs. They're stupid
but I don't
OP.
think he thought. I don't think the DM thought it through enough to be like, oh, the contracts were made by a devil.
Yeah, that's fair. I am giving way too much credit.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is,
it was probably just, oh, this contract was made by a really powerful guy.
Yeah, I was thinking more like, oh, my people are so unbeatable, they have a devil chained up in the basement of the airship to do all their paperwork for them. I was thinking kind of like that. How can she go on missions if oh no, the cult will only murder you if you leave when we don't want you to. That pisses me off to no end. That is the dumbest justification ever. It is the thing that pisses me off about this, among everything else, is the lack of consistency.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm not consistent with character voices or prices because I regularly lose the some details like how much docking is or how much drinks costed at this particular cavern, but I still do my best to try and be as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. He couldn't admit that there was a problem with his lazy setup, so he kept chaining us down more and more so we'd stay on the railroad. Rogue Player was interested in becoming a lycanthrope, and I'm gonna confess right now, I have no idea how this is supposed to work in 3.5, except for that it instantly saw her gain 10 levels instead of... No, worry about the balance. The DM instantly gifted this to her because of his crush. For the record, Rogue Player wasn't even aware of the crush and was incredibly uncomfortable once it became public. Girl was very much in love with someone else, and oblivious to the nice guy act that was happening. So now the whole party is not only weaker than everyone else on the airship, but also their own party member because the DM thinks it'll somehow get him in her pants. The OP and boring encounters continued. I can barely remember a distinct battle from the game because many of them you were in a square room, there's X number of mooks to fight. Social encounters were similarly boring because either the character would completely stonewall us because he didn't want us to try and go that way, or they would be petty, sarcastic, and mean. I also started to notice that all the DNPCs would abruptly become hostile at the same time if the NPC was pissed at a player. Now, I took the brunt of this. My character was insulted for being angry at being outed, frightened at being nearly murdered on missions, and betrayed when NPCs complete and utter betrayed when an NPC's complete and utter recklessness put her in danger. Her concerns were only valid if another player member backed her up. The only saving grace of this game was the party roleplay. I love the connection between Fighter and my sorcerer. They were de facto brother and sister and would have long conversations about the ship and their situation. She gained a close friend in the rogue eventually, resulting from the Changeling reveal and Fallout. The DM claimed credit for it, and even had a friendly rivalry with the Bard, a nobody picks on him but me sort of thing. My happiest times in the game were building these relationships.
That's fun.
That is. Inter-party relationships are always the best. I don't mean like romantic relationships, I mean just bonds in general. It's those moments between inter-party roleplay are some of the best moments in my opinion, because it also means that I get to sit back and not have to do anything.
Yeah, like Levere and Sushi's sibling-esque rivalry.
Yes, or the or everyone basically being a mom to Corvus.
Just concerned.
Yeah. So, naturally, the DM insisted on forcing his NPCs into every single conversation we had. If the party had an in-joke, cute scene, or an in-game competition, suddenly the NPC would appear out of nowhere to try and co-opt it. One time, he literally forced his way into a heartfelt conversation between Sorcerer and Rogue to have his self-insert tell Rogue to not be afraid, they were her family now, and give her a ring of invisibility. The Sorcerer was literally shoved out of the scene until I pointed out I was still there and got a half-hard, "Oh, yeah, I guess you too." This was the first time our Rogue player started to realize she was getting special treatment. Really, this? Not the lycanthrope thing? This is when she realized?
Yeah, the free magic item?
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Not the extra 10 levels plus lycanthropy. No, it's
okay. They are all new to D&D.
That's
maybe
fair.
They just think, oh yeah, werewolves are strong. That makes sense.
That's fair. I guess it's more that I guess it's probably that the DM forgot about the sorcerer being there than the item itself.
My dad just called my phone, and when I went to answer it, it didn't pick up.
Okay.
It didn't. Like I swiped on the green little phone, and it went like, nope, lock screen.
Okay. It's probably like a
Weird.
butt dial or something. So Bard.
I mean, no,
yeah, Yeah, no, I remember.
He makes calls through his echo.
Yeah. So, Bard died in one of the OP fights. Oh well, Rogue has magical revival powers, right? Nope. Deanly suddenly said that it didn't work and demanded that we instead fork over all our money for Resurrection Scroll instead. He later proudly told us, out of character, that this was his solution for us accumulating too much wealth for our party level. He was the one who set our salary. He he had this whole thing about party members falling in love and having babies. This began with a silly gag about the bard and rogue, and then was quickly taken too far by the DM. Bard had his memories modified at some point, and the DM told me he intended to push the relationship between the two by creating false memories because it would be funny. I told him Rogue wouldn't like that, and he dropped it. He also pressured me to have my character be more spontaneous with her shapeshifting. Many changelings in his world were sex slaves and worked in brothels, and my character was considered prudish for not having the same opinion of shapeshifting as his self-insert. He demanded the Warforged develop feelings for one of the NPCs. The bard didn't seduce it, and it got old. The party got sick of the imbalance and complained, so the DM took a 3-week sulk break, and then came back and announced a sudden time skip in which all of our characters would go from level 4 to level 12. Apparently, we all accepted an apprenticeship under different NPCs, despite the entire party being indifferent to them at best. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe he's starting to design encounters for a mid-level party. Ha! Nope! He just wanted an excuse to abuse higher level stuff, like 9th level spells. The first encounter we had post the leveling was an underground square room that had no shadows. Rogue's build relied on shadows for a sneak attack, and I was super excited to use it and feel powerful for once. We faced a wizard with 10 times the normal amount of HP who trounced on us until an NPC stepped in. The rogue pretty much thinks this encounter was designed to put her in her place for being excited about new powers. Not even she is allowed to be more powerful than the mighty DMPCs. That pissed me off so much. Fighter player wanted his character to have a bit of a cool backstory, and was a wandering warrior who vanished when he joined my sorcerer while she was young. DM agreed to this, then never brought it up once. He wasn't asking for much, just a unique rumor, maybe the occasional NPC recognized him as the fighter who had saved them from bandits or something. DM never once utilized this. The Warforged on the ship were cooler and stronger than him, and nobody gave him the time of day because he was just a dumb fighter. This kind of broke the player's heart, and frankly, he was the one trying his hardest to make the game work. He went along with NPCs, suspended his disbelief so hard I'm surprised it didn't hurt, and encouraged our characters to help out when they very much didn't want to. How hard could it have been to give him this one thing? He described the ship getting together for regular orgies, and we all noped out of there aggressively. We were prudes again. God ex machina. Near the end, I had a moment where my character left the airship and wasn't planning on returning when the NPCs wanted her to. The DM decided to literally have the god of her faith descend from the celestial plane and tell her to go back to the ship and respect the NPCs and follow orders like a good little servant, or they would curse her. Said god was a trickster god who favored discourse and shaking up the natural order of things. I told the DM that she thought she had encountered an imposter, and he got offended when I whined I needed to go back to the ship immediately. I tried over and over again to get him to improve. I sent him resources, I wrote feedback on unsatisfying scenes and things that he could try differently. And I called out all of the creepy stuff, in-game and out-of-game. Boy, I was sick of him bothering the rogue player at this point.
I'm getting called out again. I'll be right back.
I'll keep reading. He would constantly pretend to take what I was saying on board and then completely ignore it when it wasn't 100% praise for him and his amazing stories. In general, the DM had no idea how to give us what we wanted. We weren't complicated players. We wanted to have an adventure and face challenges that we could overcome without needing to be rescued. The problem was that the DM didn't want to run a game. He wanted a captive audience for his amazing NPCs and their story. This was all about a year ago or so, and by this point the game was basically a social trap. The DM was heavily involved in the club we played at and our regular social groups, and was known for tantrums. We felt like quitting the game would basically cause an apocalyptic event, not to mention nobody was communicating about how they felt with other players. So everyone had that feeling that leaving would basically be ruining the game for everyone else. It was a geek social fallacies at work. Basically, all that changed. It was a geek social fallacies at work, basically. That all changed one fateful night. I was at a party, chatting with an unrelated person, and I was also quite drunk. "You're in DM's game, right?" he asked. And I heard him say that it was going amazingly and that you were all having a really fun time. I'm pretty sure it was the alcohol that possessed me, but I kind of snapped and just started ranting. For half an hour straight, I poured out every feeling about this game to my poor friend, who handled it like an absolute champ. By the time I was done, I knew I had to quit. It was affecting me way too much. No D&D is better than bad D&D. I told the other players my intentions at first, and, well, that's when we found out that everyone felt the same, but had been too polite to bring it up, and collectively as a group, we all agreed it was done. Then we agonized over a kind but firm message to the DM to tell him that we were all done. That would minimize. Then we agonized over a kind but firm message to the DM to tell him that it was all done, to minimize the chances of him having an absolute meltdown about it. That took us 3 days. Fortunately, the DM took all of us quitting with relative amount of grace, at least initially. He'd later get drunk and passively aggressively and loudly talk about us being bad players who hated fun, and how he gave us everything we wanted, and we were greedy and wanting more. Personally, I sincerely hoped he'd learn from the experience. Like maybe having 4 players drop you like a hot potato would give you a serious reality check. Nah, it's the players who are wrong. Is 4 players dropping out at an instant? Am I a bad DM? No, it's the players who are wrong.
Well.
Alright. I stepped back from DM as a friend after this. The game was a strong factor, but he was getting insufferable outside of the game as well. Lots of passive aggressiveness, creepiness towards women, constantly excusing any shitty behavior with, "But I'm mentally ill." There was also a weird period where I think he somehow expected us to crawl back to him and beg for him to start the game up again, like how he'd smugly tell the fighter player that he was playing or running 5 different games and having so much fun. How many games are you playing? That's right, none. Joke's on him though. Remember the drunk friend that I ranted at for a disproportionate amount of time? Well, it turns out he's a DM and was considering starting a story-heavy campaign. Just needed a player. And oh my, looks like we had just become available. We've been playing a rich 5e campaign for over a year now, and it is amazing. New DM is a treasure, and we adore and cherish him. The combat is hard, but not unfair. The NPCs are varied, interesting, and fun. And more importantly, there are no airships. So, the OP also wrote a sequel, which I'm not going to read because I've already taken up enough time. But basically, apparently the DM wrote effectively a fan fiction, an epilogue fan fiction, which did not paint OP in a good light, and also had OP's character have like the worst life ever, which is incredibly petty.
Yep.
It is not good.
I think he had the rogue hook up with one of the DNPCs.
I think so too. It was I think it was the changeling self-insert or something, and then they had babies.
Yeah,
it was
probably.
gross. Now, on the top, like, as a DM, having a player you like's character die horribly or suffer after they're no longer in the campaign, I can understand where it's coming from. I myself have done that by, so a few years ago, like 6 years ago, god damn, 6 years ago, I was playing with Bev. Bev was the DM, and I was playing a wizard who ended up getting killed by another player, the barbarian. And so when I started my campaign, I introduced the Kinslayer's Dagger, which was carved from the finger of a gnoll who slaughtered his entire clan. Now, the barbarian in the campaign was a gnoll, whose backstory was they slaughtered their entire clan. And that's about as far as we got. The campaign didn't last very much longer after the Onkegs. And so, yes, I have been that petty. However, I did not go to the extreme lengths that this DM did. Yes, I was petty. I made a dagger out of the bone of a PC that killed one of my characters in a previous campaign. And that's all that they knew about that. I did not write anything more than that.
Yeah.
Anywho, onto the actual meat of it. DMPCs. Oh my god.
That is... From all of the horror stories, it makes it sound like DMPCs are just something you should never, ever, ever have.
Yeah.
But they're doable.
Yeah, the main thing, if you have a DMPC, the main thing you gotta keep in mind is you do not want to steal the spotlight of the players. I have a DMPC in my campaign, Dr. Tross, who I spent months trying to get him out of the party. First by having him lose his funding so he wouldn't be able to pay them anymore. And then that backfired because y'all liked him too much and y'all let him stay for free.
Yeah.
So then I had him get more funding and go off on his next expedition, which didn't involve y'all. While y'all do other things. But anywho, while he was with the party, at first he did nothing. He stayed and he hid whenever there was combat, because he was paying y'all to escort him. But once he felt more comfortable with the party, he started fighting, and he opened up a bit more. But he also only took care of the mooks, the henchmen, the goons. He didn't target the main threats, because, I don't want to steal that from you.
Yeah.
So, and also, he's not extremely pushy. He doesn't force himself into situations.
No, he's actually kind of a pushover.
Yeah. But, yeah, most of his interactions are with, the players coming up to him, or whenever the players, he never comes when he's not wanted, alright? He never stays at a scene he's not wanted in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also, he doesn't do any broken bullshit. He just stabs people.
Yeah. He just has knives.
Yeah, and he throws them, and then he can't do anything else until he retrieves them because he doesn't have a bracer of flying daggers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like 3,000 gold.
Yeah. He used to have one, but he doesn't anymore. Yeah, those are my thoughts. And also, one other thing, the battles. Oh my god, just a blank square room? Even if I have a fairly empty room, even if I have a room that is made for a boss battle, I still make it interesting. Like the Archfey. Like, yeah, that was a more or less empty circular room, but there was also the things on the ceiling that were healing her that y'all could have taken out in order to... And also there was the fight against Carmilla, which was after the battle. It was an empty circular room. However, during the battle, it had the force field, which when taking damage, which when the crystals broke, created a shockwave of infernal flame that did damage to you.
Yeah.
You know, I never have just a plain blank empty room. There's always stuff there. Alright, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Not really.
Okay. So, then you have a story.
I do.
Alright, let's hear it.
This one was posted 6 days ago.
Oh, whoa.
I'm bringing in a more recent story.
I just wanted to start with the classic just because it's a classic. I'll be doing more modern things, more recent things next week.
Yep. This is posted by user Metallic Tom.
Oh, I like that name.
Disaster DM runs D&D like a book.
Oh no! All aboard the railroad! Choo choo!
Oh yeah. First post ever. Feedback and comments are more than welcome. Sorry for the link, I really tried. So, for some background in this experience. At the time, I had very little experience with D&D. I played a one-shot and watched several videos with D&D stories and a little bit of Critical Role. I was invited to play one session at a game that some of my friends were playing. The DM, I was told, had over 10 years of experience, and the campaign took place in a world he was developing over the years and was based on a realistic fantasy medieval world.
Why do they always say 10 years of experience?
Yep.
Like, if someone says 10 years of experience DMing, then I will not believe them. I'd believe them if they said 9 or 11 or any other number other than just straight up 10.
I have, like, 4.5 years experience
DMing?
playing D&D.
Yeah, I have 5 years of experience. 5? No, coming up to 6 years of experience DMing.
Dang. I'm just stretching. The party consisted of the DM, my 2 friends, and a friend of the DM's I'll refer to as the Paladin.
Oh no.
They've been playing for about 3 years and were level 12. They seemed to complain a lot about several aspects of the game, but they also had some interesting stories to tell, so I got the sense that they were just going through a low point in their campaign. So I made a level 12 druid and joined them. I had a blast in my first session, and I could roleplay my character well enough to create some very funny situations as he met with those eccentric adventurers. So I asked the DM if I could continue with them, and he accepted me. Oh boy, I had no idea what I was signing up for. After the first couple of sessions, which were okay, honestly, I feel like the only reason that I enjoyed these first few sessions was my excitement to finally play D&D with friends. However, after the excitement had gone away, I realized how fucked up this DM's game was. I could honestly write a whole book about all the things that happened, but I tried my best to keep this short. The sessions seemed to run almost always on a fixed schedule. For the first 3 to 4 hours, we would be forced to RP with ourselves or with random NPCs we had no interest in. Then we were allowed to head toward our place of interest, where we would have a battle and then close the session. The DM was also fixated on how we would solve each problem, giving us no wiggle room to devise our own solutions. There was a time when we had to find a plot-relevant NPC that we knew was hiding in a certain village. We spent 4 whole sessions looking around the village, exploring locations, and talking with NPCs without making any progress whatsoever.
Oh, that infuriates me so much.
Yep. Until, that is, we talked with the appropriate NPC, which was the village's nutcase, who gave us the clue that revealed the location we needed.
In all fairness, that probably would have been one of the first couple NPCs I would have talked to. Just because...
Yeah.
But no, at least
by the
have...
way, is my mouse showing up in the...
No, it's not.
Okay, good.
But yeah, 4 whole sessions, Jesus Christ. At least have some kind of clue that they should talk to the village nutcase at that point. Like, even if they're walking around, have the village nutcase, like, be rambling something that is relevant to what they're looking at. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Good. The DM prided himself on running a world driven by the characters and their decisions, but he would railroad everything and got frustrated and angry when we didn't play along. At one instance, he presented us with a plot hook that involved us visiting an imprisoned archdemon in a different realm. He implied he would give us information on how to stop the demon invasion in our realm. Naturally, we tried to gather some information by asking relevant NPCs like high-ranking paladins that have dealt with demons before. They all said the same things. Demons will trick you no matter what, and it's impossible to trick them. They're the masters of lies. And the demonic realms are too dangerous to visit. You wouldn't last a day. So we decided that we would not follow that quest, and it seemed like a suicide mission. After the session, I explained to him that our characters couldn't possibly be up for the task due to how he presented us the hook. He then explains with a scolding tone, "You're the adventurers. You're supposed to take risky missions."
Yeah, but not when the people who are experiencing that shit say that you're gonna die.
Exactly. Ugh. Several sessions later, we infiltrate a demonic building in our realm, trying to destroy it. After we disable all the runic circles and slay the demons inside, we try to exit the building. Surprise, surprise, the exit's closed, and we find a way out, we find ourselves in a demonic realm. The NPCs themselves also seemed to be always against us, no matter what we were trying to achieve. They were constantly suspicious and scorned us while making remarks about how unintelligent we were and how we misunderstood the situation. Any allied NPC was a character from one of his old players or was some sort of DMPC with class levels and homebrew spells that the DM loves to use. In one instance, we were thrown out of an opposing guild after we tried to talk with their leader. He naturally refused to talk to any of us and ordered his men to kick us out. We chose to make it a bit harder for them, so my druid transformed into a giant bear and shat on the floor.
Nice.
Then a wizard casts Reduce on me, and the DM describes that my character becomes small enough to fit in the palm of a hand and is thrown out the window.
That's not how that works. It just makes you go down one fucking size. A bear is large, right? So just make them medium? It reduces all proportions by half.
At the very least, it would have taken a bear down to, like, the size of, like, maybe a tall dwarf?
Yeah, or the size of a Saint Bernard.
Perhaps. But also, what? I asked. That's not how that spell works. To which he replied, yes, that's true. For the normal spell, he's a high-level wizard. The DMPC... Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Not how it works.
Even I don't even think that there is any benefit to upcasting Reduce or Enlarge.
I think
maybe a time limit.
You do it on more people, maybe.
Maybe, but it definitely wouldn't make things bigger or smaller than its normal parameters.
Exactly. Blech. The DMPC would also straight up prevent character actions. At one instance, our cleric wanted to cast Fireball to free our paladin from a gelatinous cube that had trapped him when everything else had failed. The DMPCs pinned the cleric down to the floor while shouting at us, "He's gone crazy!" and then proceed to knock him unconscious in one hit. I mean, are we the NPCs?
Also, looking at it, there is no benefit to upcasting reduce and large.
Rip.
Oh, you can use them on weapons.
Yes, you can use them on objects.
That's useful.
Yep, you can make a slingshot into a very big slingshot. And by very big, I mean slightly larger.
Yeah. Oh, man. Imagine using a great sword.
Yeah. On the other hand, our spells and abilities were severely limited. We quickly realized that he was purposefully buffing monsters, so spells he didn't like wouldn't work. Does the bard have some spells that can easily defeat a monster like Polymorph? Well, that monster now throws with advantage and plus 10. I tried locating the enemy boss after he appeared before us in the form of an illusion with Locate Creature. He announces that we can track the boss and are now right outside his door and ends the session there. On our next session, we find ourselves...
I will say, I do hate solving things with Polymorph. My solution is to have more than one enemy and try to break the concentration.
Yes, that's... You need ads.
Yeah.
On our next session, we find ourselves still trying to track where the boss's location, and we're forced to chase after one of his minions that leads us there as the Locate Creature is now useless. All battles are scripted, and what we do doesn't matter. He keeps all the monster HP and stats in his head because it's easy for him. So the bosses had immunity until he decided otherwise. All our spells would fail, and they would stay alive even after taking 500 damage. And of course, we can't prevent any of the cool scenes he had prepared. In some instances, he even had us lose a boss fight so that our allied DMPCs could come and rescue us. Bring in the airship. Only then were we allowed to turn the tide of the battle. The only character able to deal damage was his friend, the Paladin. He had a Holy Avenger and special homebrew magical items with haste that lasted an hour, and constantly cheated with his spell spots and damage rolls. 1 hour of haste.
Oh my
and you know
god,
what?
that's terrible.
I'm betting it probably didn't have the downside of the haste running out.
Yeah, you know, where you are basically you're stunned for yeah.
Well, we can. It says comforted, but I think they meant confronted.
Read it as is.
When we comforted him about the Paladin and explained how much he was cheating, he promised he would talk again. However, nothing changed. The Paladin kept landing 150 damage on a hit. Things kept piling up. He never kept any notes, which meant that he constantly forgot things like who our enemy was, important things our characters had achieved, and items we had. And if he couldn't remember, then one of the trusted players had to come to your defense, or that thing was evaporating.
I think having a lack of notes is not an excuse, because I also have difficulty with my notes, and I still manage to keep track for the most part.
Yeah.
For encounters, I open up a notepad and write down the initiative, and by each enemy, write down their AC and HP, so I can quickly look at that without having to constantly shift the tabs over to their specific thing, you know?
Yeah.
I only shift the tab to them when it's their turn.
E. After about 6 months of this, I decided I had enough. I could no longer spend 6 hours every weekend sitting at a table where the DM could not care less about his players and was only interested in his story. I didn't want to create a sour mood for the rest of the players that were invested in this campaign for 4 whole years, so I told them I was very busy and couldn't continue and never returned. My friends pushed through the next few months until the campaign ended. They were all very disappointed and told me they never wanted to play with that DM again. Looking back at it now, I think the main problem was that the DM was unable to just talk with us or admit that he made a mistake and improve his DMing. After that experience, I decided I'd take matters into my own hands. I got Curse of Strahd, and I'm DMing it for my friends from that campaign, and we're finally enjoying ourselves.
Nice.
TLDR, DM runs the campaign like reading from a book. The PCs become NPCs, and the NPCs become PCs.
Oh, God. That pisses me off. I do everything that I can as a DM to give players autonomy. You are literally in an open world. Y'all could do, if y'all wanted to, y'all could sail in the complete opposite direction and abandon the quest you're currently on. And I would let you.
Yeah, we could just decide, you know what, all this cult shit's a little too much for us right now.
Yeah. You could try killing Truss if you wanted to. I would be
It'd
sad.
Be a bad idea.
I would be sad, but you can certainly try. I wouldn't.
I like him. He gave me a cool magic book.
He did. But yeah, like, I do not understand the DMs that do not give any kind of autonomy to players. It just baffles me so much that they would think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because D&D is a collaboration. It's a collaborative story between the DM and the players, and the most important thing is that everyone's having fun. All right? If a player is ruining the game for everyone else just so they can have fun, that player should go. If a DM is shitting on the player's choices because they can't comprehend a world where things go slightly different from what they originally wanted, then that DM needs to be more flexible. Needs to learn how to be more flexible. Like,
yeah.
There are certain times where the players will make the wrong choice. And that's okay. Because sometimes the most memorable moments come from the consequences of that choice. And more importantly, even if it's a bad decision, it's their decision to make. I don't know what else to say other than the blatant favoritism. That's also bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to play favorites with your players.
Exactly.
Because it'll make the other players, like, it'll piss them off, make them feel like they're not relevant. And in a lot of cases of favoritism, they aren't relevant because you're not, like...
They're not allowed to be relevant.
Yeah, they're not allowed to be relevant. God forbid that they step an inch into the spotlight. Oh, man.
Yep.
God, the fucking Holy Avenger. That is always the one. Like, anytime there's a shitty paladin who is effectively demanding to be the main character, if the DM obliges, then it's always a Holy Avenger, which is one of the most boring weapons. Oh, it's just a magic sword. Big whoop. Just fucking... Or a magic... Yeah, it's a magic... What was there? Long sword? Great sword?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Play paladins.
I had a paladin once. Her name was Fairbrook.
I played one for a one-shot, and that's about it.
Yeah. Fairbrook was a paladin of Istis, and she had a lance called Oath, and a longsword called Order.
I don't know enough about the fucking D&D pantheon to make a paladin.
That's fair.
Ugh.
I mean, you can make a paladin that's not devoted to any deity.
True.
Yeah. Okay, well, do you have any other things to say about that last story?
Don't don't run your game like that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Listen to your players.
Agency. I think the moral of the story here is maybe pull up some monster stat blocks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think between the two stories, the moral is probably let your players make choices, and also don't force your players into unwinnable situations just to show off a DMPC.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes this episode of the Posscast. I don't know if it's going to be Posse Podcast or just Podcast. Maybe
Posscast.
Posscast?
Posscast, perhaps.
I do like that. All right, that'll conclude this episode of Posscast. Tune
I don't know if this is going to be a weekly thing, but
it's gonna.
We'll do it when we get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll try to be consistent, but there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
Cut to like 5 years later, and it's been an ongoing thing. All right. So, if you want to see more D&D stuff following us, we do have a Curse of Strahd campaign being run by our friend Chokvi. There is also a World of Tapir, which is a homebrew that I ran. That's the one that we've been referencing with Dr. Tross. There's also quite a few games you can watch, such as Shadow of Destiny. That's a game where I have to go back in time and prevent my own murder. There's also a lot of tabletop sim.
Yeah.
We played Chrononauts recently. And at some point, actually by the time this posts, we'll probably have also gotten Lockstone Labyrinth posted.
Probably. Maybe.
Yeah. Alright. So, comment challenge of the day. Are there any DMPCs in your campaigns that you've absolutely hated?
Nah.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. So, with that out of the way,
Yeah, I don't even hate Mal.
Mal is a villain. Mal is an antagonist.
Yeah.
So Mal,
But I don't hate them.
Yeah. I think it's okay for an antagonist to be like a dick and make.
Yeah, they're allowed.
Yeah, antagonists are allowed to make the players feel weak and like shit or like idiots. They're allowed.
Yeah.
So, with that out of the way, there's nothing left to say but good night, everybody.
Bye.